The next step in your 30 koozies is to make the bottom of the koozie, which is just a round piece, and this is what the can will actually sit on top of when it's inside of the mitten. So you're going to work those rows. So this is rows 1 through 4, and then row 5 is actually a row of front post stitches. And as you can see, the bottom of the koozie will sit flat. And then this row has turned, and we will work into the top of this row, which will create the koozie that will go around the can. To do that, we do not fasten off when we are completed with that row. Instead, we make a chain, and this is at row 6 within the pattern. You're going to work a beginning chain of a certain amount depending on what size of the mittens you're making. I'm currently making the medium size. So I've got the designated number of chains worked, and then you work a row of single crochets coming all the way down back. When you reach that last single crochet of row 7, you've made it all the way back down here. Now we're going to connect it to the bottom of the koozie. You're going to skip this first stitch, which is actually the same stitch that the join of row 6 was in. You're going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. Whoops. Oh my goodness, okay. So there's 1 slip stitch, 2 slip stitch, and then you're going to turn and work back up through the tops of row 7. Or sorry, row 6. We are on row 7. You're going to skip the first 2 slip stitches, so there's 1, there's 2, and you're going to work into the top of the first single crochet, or the last single crochet of row 6. So half double crochet in there. And then we're going to begin the mixed cluster stitch. To work the mixed cluster stitch, you're going to yarn over, insert the hook into the same stitch as the half double crochet, and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, skip the next stitch, and go into the next stitch, and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, insert into that same stitch, and pull up a loop. You will now have 6 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook. Chain 1 to close off the cluster. Yarn over for the next cluster. You're going to yarn over, go back into that same stitch as the last stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, skip the next stitch, and go into the next one. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, insert into that same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 6 loops on your hook, and chain 1 to close out that cluster. You're going to continue this all the way to the end of this piece until 1 stitch remains, and then work a half double crochet in that stitch. Then you're going to follow the pattern back along the tops of row 7, which will bring you back here. You're going to skip the next stitch. So you can see you have joined, this was your last slip stitch of the last row. So you're going to skip this stitch, and then you're going to work a slip stitch here and a slip stitch there, and then turn and continue to work along this piece. This piece is going to end up going all the way around your koozie and end with row 28, which will be right in here where you will work a slip stitch right back into that beginning slip stitch. So I will come back and pick up at that point and show you guys how to continue to construct the koozie. So I just completed through row 28. So as you can see, here's the bottom of the koozie. There's your round circle. And we worked our rows all the way around, connecting as we went around the entire koozie. So this is what your can will actually sit inside of once we are completed. So this is row 6, which was our beginning row of the koozie section, working all the way around. This is row 28. We are going to connect halfway up with a slip stitch on these. So I'm going to insert my hook right here where I ended. And in the pattern, it will tell you how many stitches to work up, because it will depend on what size you are making. So basically, I am just going to hold these stitches together. So again, row 6 and row 28, and we are going to slip stitch through both stitches. So you're going to go through the top of that one, and then directly across the top of that one, and slip stitch. And then the very next stitch, go through the top of that stitch, and then the top of the next stitch, and slip stitch. You're going to continue this. Make sure these slip stitches are not worked too tight. You still want to have a little bit of stretch to the fabric of your crochet piece, and if you work your slip stitches tight, there will be no stretch at all in them. So again, you're going to work up about halfway, depending on what size it states. Okay, so I've completed my seam. I've slip stitched up along the side, and then I've fastened off and buried in my ends. Now this has created the actual koozie, but now we need the section that goes from the koozie down to the cuff of the mitten. So to do that, we're going to take, so here's your piece. You're going to just open this up right here, and you're going to continue working the same stitch pattern across the tops of the rows. So you're going to begin at the first stitch of row 6, work across the top, and then just open this up and just continue across to the top of row 28. So again, you're just going to open this up and just begin here. We'll just join in that first stitch and begin working your main cluster stitches across that row. So actually you'll chain 1, then you'll work 2 half double crochets in the same stitch as the join. So I just bury my beginning yarn as I go. So there's 1, 2, and then you're going to work the mixed cluster all the way across. Okay, so I have completed the wrist section of the koozie now. As you can see, so we've got this is the koozie that goes all the way around, and then we've got this section, and it comes out just a little bit here because we did have an increase of one of the mixed cluster stitches. So that is the way it's supposed to be. So this is the part where people are getting confused on how to construct the rest of this. So you're going to basically, so I'm at the, I'm not sure what page I'm on. I'm on page 4 of the pattern where it says stitching together. You're basically going to rotate your work so here's your bottom of your koozie, so that you're going to work along the top of this row, the wrist section that you have just completed. So we're going to, here's my piece right here. You're going to chain 1, and we're going to work single crochets through the row ends, working back down through both pieces, back down to row 29 where we began right here. So row 29 is what leads us up to right here. So you're going to go through, so I chained 1, you're going to go through the tops of both stitches, and we are just, or not the tops of, sorry, the sides of both stitches. And we're just working it down along those rows, stitching it together. This is an opening. This is like a little pocket here. It's seamed together up here, and this again is a pocket right here. Okay, and then the bottom is your koozie bottom. That is how it's supposed to look right now. Now just kind of pull this chain up here just to kind of save your threads. Now is what we're going to do. Now we're going to create the koozie. You're just going to take this, you're going to push this kind of funky little piece here inside. And then you're going to, so now you're kind of back at a cylinder, and then you're going to just fold this down. just like that. So now you can already see the shape of your koozie. This is your koozie in here. This is your hand piece. So see, your hand is completely enclosed when your can is in here. So now is what we need to do. We're going to work around the row ends. This is our bottom cylinder, the koozie. We are going to stitch together. We're going to single crochet around. So we're going to take our your hook, bring that down, and we're going to chain one, go into the stitch ends, and then you're going to grab these stitches that were left exposed when you worked the front post. You're going to go into those, and we're just going to single crochet through those again. So again, you're going to work through the row end, grab these row ends, and then you're going to work into the exposed stitches from row 4. And we're going to do this all the way around the koozie until it is completely encased. So if you're having a hard time seeing those exposed stitches, if you look up close, you've got your 4 rows, and then we worked the post stitch, which turned it. So you can see those stitches right along here. And then you've just got the row ends from your piece that you folded over, and you're just going to stitch those together. And then when we come back, I will show you how to attach the cuff to the arm piece. Okay, so we've completed all of the pieces of the koozie mitten, and we just need to attach the cuff to it. As you can tell, the opening of the mitten is wider than the cuff. So as we stitch this on, this will be kind of scrunched down around the cuff. The easiest way to do that is to take the cuff, we're going to actually turn it back inside out, so our slip stitch seam is on the outside, and I typically place that on the bottom. You're actually going to stretch the cuff over the mitten and get them all lined up in here. So as you can see, you've got the cuff and then you've got the mitten. And all those are going to line up. I find it easiest if you actually pin these in place, at least along the very bottom and the top. I just have a couple of sewing needles with me right now, so I'll do that. So you're just going to kind of pin this in place there, and then again at the top, making sure that they're going to be stretched evenly. And I just do it by hand. I don't have to be so specific that I count the stitches. I'll grab another sewing needle and just kind of stick it in here. And then I'm going to take my yarn, and we are going to very, very loosely, again, you don't want to do these slip stitches tight because then there will be no stretch, and you want this to be stretchy through here. And I am going to actually start in the center because I've already got it pinned on both sides. So I'm just going to start in the center, sticking my hook through any row end of the cuff, and then I'm going to bring it straight through to a row end of the mitten. And we are going to begin our slip stitches right there. I just made this in longer so I could weave it in easier at the end. We're just going to bring that through, and then we're going to go into the next row end. Again, keep these stitches loose and slip stitch. You're going to want to go through and kind of try to space these out evenly. Make sure that you're getting all the stitches on the mitten as well as keeping it loose so that there's some elasticity in your finished mitten. You don't want the cuff section to be too tight to fit over the thicker or fatter part of your hand. So just continue working the slip stitches around the entire cuff. Okay, so I just finished slip stitching the cuff on, and all you have to do is unfold it, and you have your Beer 30 mitten koozie. You just slip it on and wrap those fingers around. You are completely enclosed, so your fingers will stay warm, and you've got a room to put your can or your coffee or whatever you want right there in the mitten. Also included in the written pattern is directions for a matching traditional mitten that you can wear on your other hand. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and I'll have links to the pattern down in the comments. Thank you very much.